From the unexplained to the mundane, come join us on a journey to the fringe. Hello and welcome to Journey to the Fringe. Over in minutes. I was shopping earlier today and I saw a slogan like that on rice, and I thought it might be a good phrase to say in a podcast, but it turns out it doesn't trade mediums that well to this. Anyhow, we do measure this in time, whatever it is we are doing. So no matter how long it takes, it can be measured in minutes and be over in that time. Yeah. We are your podcast hosts who probably aren't the best at phrasing things like that. But anyhow, we're here and we're what you got. Taylor and Chelsea here today. I think this is somewhat a part 3 of Dr. Greer, but not really. But I'll let Chelsea take it over from here.
That's me. What better way to follow up the rear of Steven Greer than the Atacama skeleton? ATA for short. Yeah, I'm really proud of that poem, by the way.
It actually took a lot of restraint on my end to not put any rhymes in the Steven Greer episodes. It's a good rhyming name.
Well, then, you could have done the whole podcast in rhymes, so now I'm pissed.
It could have just been a limerick.
You could have just wrapped it.
Not enough people do podcast limerick forms.
Yeah, no, that is totally true. So, we're talking about ATA, the Atacama skeleton. Who is ATA? And how does he relate to Steven Greer? Because he's following up his rear. In 2003, the skeleton was removed from the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. And Taylor, feel free to jump in at any time. You may have consumed more ATA material than I have in all your journeying.
No, funny enough, it's just the one documentary that Steven Greer did, and then mysteriously, he doesn't talk about it much anymore. That's wild.
So we watched that documentary together, and I don't recall him giving a backstory on ATA, and I'm kind of jumping around a lot here, but it'll take its shape pretty soon, I have faith. He never really gave a true background story of ATA, and it's also really hard to find an actual background story of ATA.
And when you first see ATA, it does not look real in any way.
Maybe I should start by describing it. So he or she is found in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile and is originally buried in the ghost town of La Noria. It's strikingly small. It measures just 6 inches or 15 centimeters, so that's about as long as like a freshly sharpened brand new pencil, just to put it into perspective.
It's slightly longer than a 6-inch sub from Subway, because they were sued for not being the length. So there you go.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is desiccated, but it's a completely intact skeleton. The top of the skull has a distinct conical shape. So it is, if you were to say conical in like regular English, it's like almost like a cone head, kind of. And it...
See, I more so think of it like this is the skull of what I would think a gray alien's head would have in it.
You think?
A little bit. But it's got more like evil face.
Yeah, it does. It does look evil, for sure. I think Conehead, but maybe you're right.
No, you know what? The professor in Nightmare Before Christmas, it's his head.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
It also has 10 ribs. Normal humans have 12 on each side. 4 ribs. And the skeleton only has 10. A CAT scan reveals internal chest organs, lungs, and what appears to be the remains of a heart structure. And just to be clear, this is an actual organism. It has DNA that was tested, and it does come back as organic, and it's not a hoax or anything. So what they find is an organic being. Many UFO enthusiasts around the globe assumed this was the body of a tiny little alien just based on the looks of it. It does look really weird. Other onlookers suggest the bones might have come from a non-human primate. In any event, the specimen soon becomes world famous.
Can I just bring up, too, that Steven Greer brings it up in his documentary, which is outside of the Atacama alien, or skeleton, exclusively about aliens. He kind of doesn't acknowledge, even like publicly, that he thinks it's an alien, as far as I can tell. And if you take steps to really say that later on.
Yes, and I will go through that. So La Noria, where they find it actually, is an abandoned mining town, and you can't really go there anymore because it's absolutely abandoned unless you are, have 4x4 ability to get there. And because it was a mining town, The water sources around there did have arsenic in them, which will tie in a little bit. Maybe that wasn't the best place to bring it up, but this is where it sits. So Ada surfaces in 2003, falling into the possession of a treasure hunter named Oscar Munoz. Initially discovered in the Atacama Desert, obviously. It's a nitrate mining town. That's what they were mining.
I did not know we mined that.
Yeah, it had to do with around the wars, and then they found a way to synthesize it easier. I was listening to a podcast about it earlier. So most accounts say he dug up the body at a Lenorian burial site, although a few sources claim it was discovered lying on a shelf inside of one of the town's deserted buildings. So couple different stories there. Somewhere down the line, the Atacama skeleton was sold to Ramon Navia Osorio, a Spanish, Barcelona actually, business owner and private collector. He's also the president of the Institute for Research in Exobiological Studies, a prominent UFO organization. Navia Osorio later crossed paths with longtime ufologist Steven M. Greer at a 2009 conference. Greer got permission to take a bone marrow sample from Ada's body.
Okay, so was this guy into aliens? Like, why did he end up at a Steven Greer thing?
Yes, he was. So he was...
That's not something you just kind of stumble across.
So he was the president for the Institute of Research in Exobiological Studies, which is a prominent UFO organization. So that's kind of where he would have crossed paths with Steven M. Greer.
But why? He's in Spain, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he must have thought Steven Greer was an important person.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, the plan was to have the material from Ada's body examined for Sirius, which is the documentary we were talking about. Then, a microbiologist got in touch with Greer. Stanford University School of Medicine professor Gary Nolan caught wind of the upcoming film. He became intrigued by a promotional photo showing Ada's body.
I wonder how much Ada would have cost.
I wonder that too. This guy sounds like he just straight up had a lot of money and was like, yep, I want it. I mean, I can't say that I would see something like that and want to buy it. I just don't have the money for it.
Oh, if I saw it, I would immediately say this is fake. Why are you trying to sell this?
I know,
to me?
right? This guy probably had his yacht sunk by orcas off the coast of Portugal.
Actually, yeah, we should follow up on see how his yacht's doing. It's weird that like all the bones are all together. Like bones don't naturally stay together like that.
Oh, I should say that it is mummified, and that is just
okay. So it's not just you can see the bones, but they're not like the actual outside layer. Okay,
it's gonna be one of those episodes where I just slowly leak the information to you that you should have. The body's
as
mummified.
your members, we're supposed to know.
Right, you should know this. And that's just purely due to the desert-like conditions that it was its home. I don't know how to put that.
it jerkifies. It jerkies bodies.
That was it. Because it's super salty and dry, so the conditions were right to mummify it. And it mummified with all its organs inside of it. So that's why it looks like that. It's not like decayed or anything. It's definitely mummified. That was a huge part of the puzzle. So I apologize for putting this in here. So the public got a sneak preview of Nolan's research in 2013 when Science magazine ran an article about his team's preliminary findings. Quote, the DNA was modern, abundant, and high quality, end quote, he explained at the time. Nolan went on to say that he and his co-authors had revealed the Atacama skeleton, quote, is human and there's no doubt about it, quote, end quote again, I think, because there's a lot of quotes in there. Our much-anticipated study was finally published March 22nd, 2018 in the journal Genome Research. Genomes are the unique genetic codes possessed by all organisms. Using Greer's marrow sample, Nolan and his colleagues were able to carry out detailed whole genome analysis of the Atacama skeleton. When they compared Ada's genetic info to that of various primate species like the chimpanzee, macaque, and of course Homo sapiens, it became clear that the specimen is human. A close look at the chromosomes revealed she is a human female, a fetus who probably died in the womb. But hold on, how can we explain Ada's eye-catching physique, which is a lot of what Steven Greer points at when he says, I mean, let's face it, he is alluding that it's extraterrestrial.
It would be incredibly weird it being the only thing in a documentary about aliens for him to not be saying it's an alien.
Totally. Evidence of several genetic mutations were present in the study, and these would theoretically account for Ada's ribcage and cone-shaped head. Nolan's team also stated that her bones could have aged prematurely due to yet another mutation. Given the size of the specimen and the severity of the mutations, it seems likely the specimen was a preterm birth, wrote the scientists in their 2018 genome research paper. Quote, DNA analysis on the premature human fetus identified unusual mutations associated with dwarfism and scoliosis, although other research contested genetic abnormalities, finding that the skeleton showed normal fetal development. There is unfounded speculation by people, such as UFO theorist Steven Greer, that Ada is an extraterrestrial. Such speculation led to Ada's inclusion in the 2013 UFO film Sirius and captured the attention of Stanford University. Yeah, we already knew Gary P. Nolan, and he analyzed those remains. I don't need to say that to you again. You're all following me, I'm pretty sure. Although initially thought to be older, the fetal remains have been dated to as recently as the late 1970s and have been found to contain high-quality DNA, suitable for scientific analysis. The remains have an irregularly shaped skull and a total of 10 ribs as opposed to 12 for adult humans. The potential signs of oxycephaly considered that the frontal suture of the skull is very open and the hands and feet not fully ossified. Anatomist and paleoanthropologist William Youngers has suggested that it was a human fetus that was born prematurely and died before or shortly after birth. An alternative hypothesis by Nolan is that Ada had a combination of genetic disorders that led to the fetus being aborted before term, and pediatric radiologist Ralph Lockman has said that dwarfism alone could not account for all the features found in the fetus. So, big debate. During the DNA analysis by Nolan, the B2mtDNA haplotype group was found in the remains. Haplogroups identify human genetic populations that often are associated distinctly with particular geographic regions around the globe. Combined with the alleles found in the mitochondrial DNA contained in the remains, the findings suggested that Ada is indigenous to the western region of South America. In March 2018, Nolan published additional results stating that the fetus had a rare bone aging disorder, as well as other genetic mutations in genes associated with dwarfism, scoliosis, and abnormalities in the muscle and skeleton. The researchers identified 64 unusual mutations and 7 genes linked to the skeletal system, and they noted that finding so many mutations that specifically affect skeletal development has never been reported before. So there's this whole debate between, what's normal and what's not. Obviously, Steven Greer is pointing to the fact that a lot is not normal, and we're going to get into it a little bit more when I talk about Steven Greer involved with this. I'm pretty sure that's why I set it up this way in this episode. It was confusing to me for a second. It's also another reason why I mentioned something earlier in the episode, the arsenic as a byproduct of whatever they were mining up there, which would cause a lot of fetal abnormalities should somebody be drinking that arsenic water, which, was probably everyone, hence why it's no longer a habited town. So that's much of the debate going back and forth between Steven Greer and his posse and these scientists, saying that it is a human with multiple genetic mutations present.
I also really wish Steven Greer would actually take a position other than just saying that's weird.
Yeah, we're actually going to go through his statement in full in not that long here. So we're going to see exactly his position. I just thought that I would follow up the rear on that one with, there is a very differing part of this. They're saying it's mutations and a fetus that obviously...
Sorry, by they you mean scientists.
Yeah,
who did DNA testing on it.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Steven Steven Greer does say something else, which is important, but not present here. So I just ad-libbed that for you guys. So you'll see. It's all here. Trust me. So everything for a reason in my episode. Of course it's not in order, but we're gonna get there. It's like a puzzle. We're all here together having fun. Ada is very controversial, and skeleton is on the young side. She's got well-preserved DNA, and based on our knowledge of how fast DNA breaks down over time, it's safe to say that Ada is under 500 years old. As I said, they're thinking she's within 40 years old.
Oh man, Ada should be going through her midlife crisis right now.
There's a decent chance that one or both of her parents are still around today. There's a lot of ethical questions around Ada that is brought up within the scientific community because of what's going on with her. We imagine how either one of the parents might feel if they lived to see their child's body snatched, sold, and then labeled as a humanoid by UFO gurus. One also has to wonder about how they'd react to scientists drawing international attention to what was, for all we know, a private family tragedy. The 2018 genome research paper faced a swift public outcry. Less than a week after the document was published, the Chilean Society of Biological Anthropology and the Chilean Association of Archaeologists both issued statements calling the study unethical. Under Chilean law, it is illegal to, quote, carry out archaeological, anthropological, or paleontological... Help me out. How do you say that?
I have no idea what word you're trying to say. Paleontological?
Yeah, there you go. Excavations, end quote, without first getting authorization from the country's Council of National Monument. That probably didn't happen in Ada's case. It most definitely did not, as it was just straight up sold to a collector.
But to be fair, that list did not include treasure hunting.
Yeah, it's true. It didn't.
Which is how he technically got it in the first place.
It's true. Nor were any Chilean researchers involved in the genome research study, which became another bone of legal contention. Wow, that was not a nice pun. Especially when they're talking in the ethical section. Some of the study's biological claims were criticized too. A follow-up paper published in August 2018 in the International Journal of Paleopathology, jeez, there's some hard science words in this, that Ada's striking appearance could have very little to do with genetic mutations. Instead, parts of her skeleton might have been disordered or flat out lost during her birth, mummification, or burial. Getting back to Nolan, he and one of his co-authors, Atul Butte, of the University of San Francisco, later penned a statement defending their research, noting that nobody on their team physically touched or even saw the actual skeleton. The two expressed their desire for Ada to be repatriated and accorded proper respect as human remains. I guess in the end it was Steven Greer that got all the samples. We'll hear from him about the samples soon. Genetic mutations identified in Ada's DNA could account for her distinct physical traits such as her small stature, conical skull shape, and reduced number of ribs, suggesting a rare, possibly unknown condition. A subsequent study published in September 2018 by an international research team led by New Zealand's University of Otago, Associate Professor of Bioarchaeological Sian Halcrow, questioned the March 2018 study by Nolan, stating, quote, "As experts in human anatomy and skeletal development, we find no evidence for any of the skeletal anomalies claimed by the authors. Their observations of anomalies represent normal skeletal development in a fetus, cranial molding from delivery, and potential post-mortem taphonomic effects, and that the team was skeptical concerning the genomic results. Authors also raised ethical concerns about the work by Nolan, saying that studies such as these that do not address ethical considerations of the deceased and their descendant communities threaten to undo the decades of work anthropologists and others have put in to correct past colonialist tendencies." End quote. The publishers of the early study, Genome Research, responded by stating that the ethical standards did not cover work on, quote, specimens of uncertain biological origin, such as the Atacama skeleton, end quote, but also stated their intention to review their own policies on such studies. The authors of the Genome Research article published a response acknowledging the ethical concerns and calling for the repatriation of the remains. They distanced themselves from possible ethical missteps by largely claiming ignorance about the handling of the remains and the circumstances of the discovery, and nothing that they were presented with roughly a cubic millimeter of bone to analyze. Okay, so here's the part we've all been waiting for. Let's talk about Steven Greer. First off, I find Steven Greer to be very hard-pressed to give any background information on Ada. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, he'll say it came from the Atacama Desert. That's pretty much it.
To be fair, that's fully within how he's worked this entire time.
Yeah,
I can't tell you much about anything in the past. I can give you a vague idea sometimes.
That's totally
But if
true.
it's important, no,
That's
won't
top
touch
secret.
it. Won't touch it at all.
He talks about Ada in detail on one of his stupid documentaries, which is Sirius. What I find hilarious about it...
I think we should mention Sirius as in the star Sirius. Sirius. Not serious as in like this is serious stuff that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Again, it would be weird to not think it's an alien if you're putting a skeleton that you're biopsying and studying in a show called Sirius about another star.
What I find hilarious about it is that Greer and this other guy are super excited about the skeleton, and they have someone do an analysis of it that does not appear on camera, which is Nolan, I believe. Now, I want you to listen for yourself to my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
Hold on, we're in an ad.
So one of the first things that Dr. Lockman immediately remarked upon was the shape of the head and the skull. That it was not something that he is accustomed to seeing. Certain aspects of the skull and certain aspects of the potential mutations and syndromes that might account for the specimen were present. But what was remarkable, at least in my discussions with him, that any given syndrome often has co-phenotypes or co-events that would occur. And it was quite interesting and in some ways exciting as he would remark upon a particular feature of the specimen and then find that the associated features that you would expect from a syndrome of that nature were not found.
What you'll also see is that he says it has 10 ribs.
That was it.
Okay.
Okay, and maybe you missed it.
I just really like that they are even like at that point establishing it in it's human. It just has a lot of abnormalities, which they find weird. But like,
here's the thing, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's weird. It's an alien documentary.
Yeah. So I don't know if you caught it. They say it very like they continue talking. But the guy literally says, quote, say certain aspects of the potential mutations and syndromes that might account for the specimen present.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. They're like, yeah, these are rare mutations. That's great. It's a human.
All of the things that would account for it are there. Yes, they are there. Yeah. So on Greer's website, he has a document. Atacama humanoid still a mystery. Stanford University research by Steven M. Greer, April 22nd, 2013. And I want to find it because I thought that I had it linked here and I did not. I'm going to find it and we're just going to go through it. Swear to God I had it linked in here. Where the frick is it? That's so nice of me. This document is a frickin' mess. Okay, where are you? It's the one you sent me.
I can see if I can find it.
I'm looking for it too.
Okay.
I really thought it was right on the landing page. I go on a cruise.
You're looking for the document I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he does have a whole like write-up on the thing on his webpage, but this is not what you're looking for.
Oh, I want the document. Why can't I search his webpage? Evidence and docs. Oh, it might be in here.
Oh. He misgenders it in his webpage.
I know.
Calls it a he throughout.
I know. Oh, right here. Here it is. Open. Okay. I hope this is it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. So it starts out May 14, 2018, Steven M. Greer, MD, Sirius Technology, Advanced Research, LLC. We all know how to feel about that. 2. All these people, I don't care. Atacama skeleton. This is clearly an email. I've become aware of the recent publication in Genome Research of a study on the Atacama skeleton that has now received worldwide media attention. This is the one I was telling you about that says it was human. For the record, neither I nor anyone on my team have ever claimed the Atacama skeleton was alien, but only highly unusual and needed competent scientific investigation. Alas, the study recently published in the Genome Research makes a mockery of science.
Can we just stop right there and acknowledge his tacit statement that he is not capable of that research?
Yes, we can acknowledge that. We can bask in it.
I think that's pretty great that he's saying somebody competent.
Yes, somebody competent must do it. So he goes on. You should know that as principal investigator, in quotes, PI, on this case, that I was neither consulted nor given an opportunity to review Gary Nolan's et al. Findings prior to publication. This is unfortunate, as any qualified PhD would have found the paper deeply flawed and incompetent.
Okay.
12
Okay, Stephen.
have looked into this paper and have concluded it is junk science at its worst. 2 have written comments after studying the data.
Now, Chelsea, can we just ponder the statement junk science at its worst?
Yeah.
Does that swing the pendulum back to competent again? If it's bad junk science?
It's a double
Yeah,
negative.
a double negative.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a bad guy might be a good guy.
Yeah. You're right. Back at good. This is good science.
Yeah. This is great science. It's bad junk science, so it's good science.
Yeah, it's good. I have concerns that, having spent tens of thousands of dollars obtaining the sample at our expense, Stanford, UCSF, and Genome Research Journal have published a false, defaming, and inaccurate paper that does not substantiate harm to the cause of science and to me personally. I just am picturing him like...
He was defamed by this?
Infuriated, typing with his one finger so fast.
You think just like you would get like 10 taps and then you just get a heavy sigh and then like 8 more taps and then a heavy sigh and then to pace.
Yeah, I can't see how he would be defamed by this.
And then he comes back and he flips the chair around and has to go back.
In the end, it probably got him more exposure than he regularly has.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Aside from the legal and ethical questions of such a paper being published and garnishing worldwide media coverage without my knowledge or advice, there is the damage to the underlying purpose, to discover what the Atacama skeleton is.
Oh man.
It goes on.
Oh, I know, I saw it.
Oh, we're reading all of this. I need to look at this document with you. I wasn't going to, and then I actually looked at it, and we have to. The bone samples provided were done so with assurances from Nolan that a thorough and objective study would be made. However, all of the PhD geneticists that have delved into his data and methodology assure me it was done at best incompetently, and at worst, and this is their belief, fraudulently. The lack of controls, the methods used, and so forth were so blatantly incompetent that their only conclusion is that the study was corrupted from the beginning to obtain a predetermined conclusion. This is not science. It is politics or something else.
He was trying to think of one more example of what it could be. Oh, at that point, there was a heavy sigh of pace, and he's like, "You know what? Screw it. We're just gonna put something else and move on. I can't. I'm furious."
Couldn't think of.
I really like that he couldn't name the PhD friends that he had talked to who said this was junk science. That wouldn't help my case at all, saying who specifically stated that this was bad.
Oh no, you couldn't.
You can't do that. You're just too mad. It's a stream of consciousness thing.
Yeah, he's too enraged. It's a friend of a friend, god damn it. Specifically, the study had no controls, was not a reference-free DNA study, data was cherry-picked, and key data left out. Example, 360,000 triploid alleles, and was done with antiquated technology and methodology. I've been assured that any competent peer review process would have given the paper a 0 score and returned it.
This has been peer reviewed, correct? Like, I think we mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that what peers do, is mark it?
Yeah, they give you a 0 or a higher score than a 0, I assume.
The assertion that the skeleton is a deformed fetus, allegedly female, that was in bracket, is unfounded. Yeah, this is why he says that on his website. Is unfounded by the data and the clinical medical findings. See Dr. Lockman's report attached. That there were 7 de novo mutations resulting in the seen biological specimen is spurious and without scientific foundation. Others have concluded that had there been such widespread genetic damage that the embryo would never have been able to divide and develop further.
It died in the womb. Like,
yeah, it seems
it got slightly further than he just said, but it died in the womb.
To me, that's what makes the most sense. 2 PhD scientists with deep knowledge and expertise in DNA sequencing have assured me the study was faked from the very beginning, and that the report could not have been properly peer reviewed.
Assured?
Both
That's an interesting way to put that.
Included that this is a case of massive academic corruption and fraud. Like, it could have even been someone, like, not listening to him because he doesn't shut up and just like, yeah, sure.
I really feel like he dominates conversations and people nod because they're just like, I just want to get this done with. And then that's an assurance.
He takes it as assured.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. Okay, I can totally see that. I am an MD and not a PhD geneticist, so he's incompetent as an edit as well.
Yeah, he's fully stated
that. He has said that. He cannot do it. He's not competent.
But he can clearly spot the issues of somebody who actually knows what they're doing it.
He knows it. Yeah, it was done wrong.
Mostly because they didn't.
Not a PhD.
I just want to put this in here. He's mad that they didn't run it by him first, despite the fact that he fully acknowledges he has no expertise in this area.
Just wait. When we get to the end, he has it all in bullet form what he's unhappy with.
Oh man, he got so fuming he just couldn't even form structure anymore.
I am not a PhD geneticist. However, I can attest that even the statement that we told Nolan the specimen was thousands of years old is false. Clinically and archaeologically, we knew it was from early in the 20th century or the late 19th century. This was reported to Nolan specifically. He asserted it is 40 years old, although there is no evidence for this either. The strata of ruins in which the skeleton was found is from the late 1900s, 1930 or so.
So, I'm pretty sure in the documentary he mentioned it several times that it could be hundreds of years old, correct?
Yeah.
And he's even saying, I agree with what he found, that it was in the 1900s, and then he shits all over him again.
There were also studies showing the specimen was around 6 years of age, a finding nullified by the fanciful idea that it prematurely aged in utero, in brackets progeria. Nolan's own research assistant found a similar creature from 1996 in Russia. See attached email and Russian photos, also found in an area of alleged UFO events. Nolan asserted to me that if there were 2 of these unusual creatures, that the likelihood the Atacama one was a deformed human was nil.
Why?
Nolan was fully aware of these clinical and historical facts prior to completing this study and report. I don't know why. Doesn't say why.
Yeah.
Can't say why. You can't tell us.
He was fully aware.
Otherwise, the why would be in there.
I really feel like you should explain yourself if you're saying that, like, oh, finding another one shows it can't be an abnormality. But does that not add to the likelihood that it's a genetic abnormality that can exist out there?
Well, in his mind, it must add to the fact that it's an alien.
But he's also said he knew it wasn't an alien right at the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's true.
And he starts this off saying, I knew it wasn't an alien, and also I am not an expert in this subject matter, and you should not take me seriously. But
we need someone competent to do this. It has also come to my attention that Nolan received a $3.2 Department of Defense Teal Award, approximately.
Did you say $3.2 or $3.2 million?
Well, it just says 3.2 with a dollar sign, Department of Defense Teal Award. There's no million or anything. Okay. Approximately 1 month after I provided the DNA samples to him on October 2012. See attached. This document is really just like a gold mine. I first opened it up and I was like, this is bullshit. I'm not even reading this. And then I read a little bit to see what he had to say, and I was like, holy shit, this is a gold mine of amazingness. Oh yeah, I was in the middle of this. 2 separate people, the director of the film Sirius and a member of my team who met privately with Tristan Harris, I don't know who that is, have stated that Nolan was induced to say the specimen was a deformed human by federal agents or someone connected to the US government, and that is why he reached these spurious scientific conclusions. Scientific was in quotes, by the way. If true, if is capitalized. If true, this constitutes fraud and scientific corruption at its worst. We need a full state, federal, and academic investigation into this case to determine how this study came to these conclusions, whether fraud was committed, if federal or state funds were used, and why the study published in an obscure journal gained such media attention. Something tells me he's going to be hard-pressed to do that. Recently, Nolan has become associated with a group called To the Stars Academy, headed up by a former rock star.
Oh, he hates
this
them.
Group, see attached article, is packed with former, in brackets, current, in quote, Pentagon and CIA operatives, well known for running scams on the U.S. government and American people. See email for senior CIA official written to me. Attached. Was it this group, or there is assets that arranged for global media coverage of Nolan's findings? I'd just like to point out at this time that he is working with Richard Doty, Steven Greer, by the way, just in case we weren't clear.
And David Wilcock.
I mean, Doty has the bigger implications. David Wilcock's just an asshole.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
All of these issues need a full and impartial investigation by academic conduct committees and offices that handle legal and ethical problems as soon as possible. Sorry, I'm laughing because he really does hate To the Stars. He really wants to get him. I ask that. Here are his demands. Number 1, you provide me with the peer review comments from the genome research related to Nolan's paper. 2, return to me any unused DNA materials from the specimen that I provided to Nolan. 3, compensate me for the costs involved in obtaining the sample, in the damage to my reputation, travel time, and damage to my intellectual property, in brackets, Sirius and others, and bracket, to be determined by arbitration or other means if necessary. Wouldn't you have to go to court for arbitration?
No, court's a different avenue.
Okay.
But it's very easy to actually file a complaint, an ethics complaint with the university, which I was trying to look up to see if he did it.
Like he wants to.
Apparently he sued Fox. I'm just learning this now.
Well, he would put it in this fucking report if he wanted to.
But I just learned this.
Because everything else is fucking in here.
He sued Fox News in 2020.
What?
Steven Greer sued Fox News in 2020. I just learned this because I was trying to find if he filed an ethics complaint with the university. I don't know what to do with that information. It might be a follow-up.
Next one. Launch a full... I lost count. I was numbering these, by the way. He has them bullet point. Launch a full and impartial investigation headed by competent scientists knowledgeable in sequencing DNA from ancient or old samples to document where the scientific method broke down. Next. Launch a full impartial investigation to determine if there was a corruption by financial interests, governmental and national security interests, and the media. Next, a full report on who funded the Nolan study and if any state or federal funds, personal, equipment, etc. were involved. I should also note that 2 renowned PhD genetic experts have spoken to me and stated emphatically that they offered their help to Nolan to do the study properly and that he refused their assistance. One of these scientists at the time headed up a company that did state-of-the-art reference-free DNA sequencing and offered his company's services to Nolan. He refused.
Sorry, I am at a loss there. People contacted him and said, "Hey, you're probably going to screw this up. Can we help?"
Nolan, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And he won't even put the person's name in there who offered their help, which, again, he hates details.
That's his friend.
Yeah. But also,
his friend.
He's saying, "Hey, your university probably has shit equipment. Come use our company's equipment." For what I'm assuming isn't just going to be out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah, and he probably didn't even say his name. He was probably like, "Hey, I'm Steven Greer's friend.
Yeah.
Want to come use my equipment?"
I don't have a name. I'm just a friend.
Which you would be right to decline. Both of these scientists have assured me that the study must have been corrupted from the beginning, since incompetence at this level from Stanford and UCSF is simply not plausible. I do not know. We must get to the bottom of what happened, how, and why. Ultimately, we need to address what exactly is the Atacama skeleton. That was such weird grammar in that sentence. This Nolan study muddies the water and brings no scientific clarity to the question. So we are back where we started when I first saw the specimen in 2009. Unfortunately, it is unlikely we'll obtain another sample of the bone marrow DNA since Nolan's behavior has so disgusted the owner of the specimen. He wishes no further involvement. Isn't that convenient? And who can blame him? This fiasco has damaged my relationship with this person and others in the research community irreparably. You blew your one and only chance.
You can't screw up any more than that.
So bad that he won't even give more DNA to prove that he was wrong. If this skeleton represents a heretofore unknown species, I'm heretofore.
He could really just said previously, but he's in that kind of mood.
Yep, he is. We have lost a great deal to the advancement of science.
We could have had so many chances, but you just did it so bad. That was it.
We did it good. It would have been unlimited chances.
I don't think unlimited, Chelsea. The skeleton's only 6 inches, but more than one.
See, the owner of the skeleton's too pissed too. We lost our only chance. Okay, never mind. It was the only chance based on that. Okay. Peer review. I don't feel like... these are all emails too. They're not even just peer reviews. They're emails. Okay, where's the next thing I wanted to discuss with you? Dr. Lockman's letter and full report. Well, here's Dr. Nolan's report. Thank you very much for the opportunity to examine the radiographic images of this specimen. I have examined in the course of my career many skeleton and other pediatric bone anomalies and dysmorphias, especially in the field of skeletal dysplasias and syndromes. The specimen does not fall under any known to me class of disorders or syndromes. As I told you during our last meeting, when I formally went over the images in preparation for the formal report, there is no known form of dwarfism, and that accounts for all the anomalies seen in this specimen. Most interestingly, based on knee epiphyseal standards, the specimen appears to be 6 to 8 years of age. While there remains a possibility this latter result is due to some form of unknown progeria, accelerated aging syndrome, in my opinion, this is a low probability. This is the one that is on the documentary.
Yeah.
So this is where Steven Greer gets that it's like a 6 to 8 year old.
Yeah, and crazy how studying it in a different way might give you a different conclusion.
Yeah, so this is what we see. They're looking at this document on the documentary clip where it says definitely all the things that could be wrong with it are there as far as abnormalities. So it just goes through like basically physically what it looks like. Thorax, 10 ribs, narrow thorax with otherwise normal ribs, elongated clavicles, blah, blah, blah. Email to Dr. Nolan. Oh, no, it's not an angry email. It's just about the Russian. Oh, what does it say? It's about the Russian skeleton. Begin forwarded message from Gary Nolan, April 10 to Steven Greer. Subject, a very similar specimen below. I don't even know why these emails are in here. From Aaron Simmons to Gary Nolan. Subject read. There's no subject on this one. It just says nice. The Atacama specimen looks a bit like Alexis of Kitchtim, discovered in 1996. Here's the most informative account on Alexis that I found. Thought the English is poor. It's a link. The video at the end is the highlight. I wonder if you'll get the opportunity to do deep sequencing on Alexis. If this is due to a rare mutation, then having a second sample might reveal it. Yes. And I'm reading this because he includes some really weird things like this. Like just a forwarded email. Oh, here's the, you know how we said the senior CIA's acknowledgement that the To the Stars are, okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is an email. It says, sent from my iPhone. Begin forwarded message from, he took out the email.
Of course.
Date, December 31st, to Steve Greer, regarding subject with no alien DNA. Hi, Steve. Glad to hear all is fine. I have watched that rat pack run scams against the U.S. government, loony billionaires, and now average citizens. Keep up the good work. That's literally...
That's how he knows. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Well, that's how you know. Yeah.
Then he has a whole thing in this document to the Scars Academy team. And this is basically what we went through when we did the To the Stars episode. So it just lists all the people in To the Stars and like where they come from and what their title is within. He just has this in this document, which is just freaking weird. And that's the document. Like, this is what he has on his webpage that's easily accessible to everybody on. Isn't that a weird document?
It is.
And he's just throwing To the Stars under because Nolan's a part of them? I don't know. That's why I had to go through it. I was just like, what the fuck was that?
Oh man, that's great. And I think a pretty good example that our listeners can see of don't send an email when you're angry. Sit on it for at least a day.
At least. Save it as a draft and go back and edit it. Yeah, that's what I thought I would end up on. Ada's a really strange little alien being. Widely not discredited because it is something in somebody's life.
It is agreed on that it is weird. I don't think there's anybody who says, yep, just a normal fetus.
Yeah, but I mean, not everybody stumbles onto what is probably a miscarried fetus every day and is looking at it in the eyes of, I've found an alien being.
That also Chile has asked for it to be returned.
Yes, and said that it, yeah. And here Steven Greer is saying he lost his one and only DNA sample because we'll never get a chance to look at it again because it was so incompetently looked at. It's disgusting.
Giving us all a new answer to what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah, what is the worst that could happen? Apparently, what happened to Steven Greer is the worst case scenario. But yeah, it's a funny story, Ada. Quite sad in the end if you look at it from the eyes of, you know, the Chilean government trying to get it back because of how ethics were not followed very well given it. But yeah, kind of fuzzy. Nobody really knows where it came from. We know where it is right now. And yeah, then you just leave it with Steven Greer. And this is where I think that he's the only person pushing any narrative with it anymore.
And he doesn't talk about it that much anymore either. It's more so it's just like I think it builds his rage. And actually it gives some context of why he's calling To the Stars out. More than there was before.
Yeah, a little bit. I quite enjoyed that was in there. And his freaking evidence of it with this one-liner email. Where you don't even put a name in it. Like, oh my god.
Oh, no, it would be weirder if he actually put a name in it, Chelsea.
Yeah. Friends.
And I actually think
I'm surprised that he puts that email in, but he didn't put any of the emails saying, well, maybe it was in the peer review. Maybe those were his friends, because I didn't actually read those with you. But peer review, I say that with air quotes around it. But I was going to say, the things where people were saying that it was so incompetently done was not in there. Maybe I just skipped over it, though.
Yeah, I was actually hoping the weirdest answer I think could have actually happened was when they were running those original genetic tests and they started talking about the monkeys. Imagine if it turned out it was a chimpanzee in the middle of Chile from the 70s.
But I could see him still being so focused on how it was incompetently done because it was tied back to something on Earth. Not the other implications of it. And I'll be the first to admit, that's why you're here on Journey to the Fringe. It was a little all over the place with me explaining it. But in the end, we got to where we needed.
We got the main course, and it was served cold, I think. No, that wasn't revenge. Oh, yeah. So it was served sassily. They just chucked onto the table. Yeah. And then the server left in a huff.
Yep, he was pissed. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I did enjoy this. I do like that different angle on Steven Greer. Because we alluded to that there's this, like, under the surface, like, rage that he has against anybody who wrongs him. And however he perceives it being wronged. And I think that letter really shows that is there.
I know. And I'm so glad that in the end I ended up reading it. I tried to make AI read it, and it wasn't doing a very good job. So I went back and read it, and I was like, I just got to read this whole letter.
But
it's a wonderful work.
It is. Truly some of his best work, because we've seen his documentaries.
It was. Yeah. Then I forgot to say that you had to imagine while I was reading it, imagine him sitting in a stool and the camera is on the floor and it's looking up at him. In what is to be known as the worst camera angle in existence.
Yeah, I actually think they copyrighted after that because they came up with something special in that documentary.
The Greer.
That they quickly moved away from ever using again in the next documentaries. You know what? We better splurge and buy the tripod for the entire shoot. Oh, well, thank you for that, Chelsea. He is a truly wonderful person to learn about in the worst way. I hope we never have to cross paths with him. We check the email fairly often, so I'm just waiting when these episodes come out for the cease and desist letter, or for some weird allusions to how there's podcasts out there who are just evil and spiteful and paid off by the inner workings of the governments.
You know what? I don't think we can get as worst case scenario as Adam was with Steven Greer. So.
He pulls everything.
We're gonna put it all out.
Our episodes are so bad that he just removed his online presence. There's nothing there anymore. Oh, that is a great place to end. I've been Taylor, here with Chelsea. We are Journey to the Fringe. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey to the Fringe. If you have liked what you have listened to, please like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on what venue you are listening to us through. Also, please, if possible, leave a 5-star review, as that really helps us in the algorithms. Should you wish to interact with us, please check us out on your social media of choice. I bet you we are there. And if you really want to communicate with us and give us ideas for new episodes, or tell us that we're wrong and terrible, either way, please send us an email at journeytothefringe@gmail.com. For now, I'll see you in the next episode.